The next topic we're going to discuss are scale unit modes, keyframing, as well as inner compositing combined with in-screen editing. And in order to do so, I will create a generic screen, and again, I will change the resolution to Full HD. There we go. Now let's take a look at compositing, and in here I again have the regular content which we have imported from, which we have still in the project from our previous task. And what I will do is I will now insert this picture on my layer or on my screen. And as you can see, the aspect ratio of this picture is different than the aspect ratio of the screen I have in use. I have a full HD screen, and my picture in here has 340 by 1080 resolution, so it's 2 times full HD basically. Now, in order to scale this correctly, I have different options of scaling, which are always applied to the layer. They're layer based, so to speak. If you select the layer, you can find your scale unit modes here in the inspector. There are in total 5 different scale unit modes. Or you could also right click and go directly to the layer, on the layer scale unit mode, and select it from here. So fit is the one which is assigned by default. It looks like what you can see here. Then there is stretch, which will stretch the picture. Then there is resource resolution, which will put in the native's resource resolution. And fill, which looks the same in our case, as it basically applies the same scaling. Last but not least, there's used object 1 by 1, and this applies to 3D objects. You can also assign 3D objects in Pixera on your layers and in your compositing, and this is used for 3D objects. So now, once we have fill selected, we are now missing pieces of the content to the left and to the right because our aspect ratio is different to our regular screen. Now let's take a look at the keyframing, which you can access by expanding the layer, and in here we can find the position. I can now manually add a point and move it up and down in order to shift my picture. As you can see, we are missing some parts to the left and to the right. Let's quickly put in here 0. Now, in order to still be able to keyframe basically out of your picture, out of your scenery, we have a feature in place in Pixera called dive into current screen. Now, before I show this, I will again activate my grid. So in Pixera, we have an concept of outer compositing and inner compositing. The outer compositing I'd like to refer to a lot of times as scene view. So here, what we see here with the grid is the outer compositing. The outer compositing always tries to mimic and virtualize the actual scene. So the stage you're using, the screens you're using. If content leaves a certain screen space, it is lost, because also in the real world you won't see the content. Now, by clicking this button here on the top, this arrow key, you're able to dive into the current screen, to the so-called inner compositing, which I will do now, which will then look like this. So here you can see the actual screen. That's my physical screen's limitation. And if I now scroll out, I have all the space I need to have, even in 3D, in order to do my compositing. So what I can do now, let's quickly delete this keyframe, and I can now remove this active value by pressing escape. What I can now do is I can now utilize this in order to do some more keyframing. So let's say I want to do an animation from the left to the right. What I can do now is I could, for example, change my values here in up front. So I bring the picture here to the sides. Now with Shift, I go to Fine mode. Let's zoom in a little bit more. Let's go Shift, something like this. And now I can save the keyframe. I can save it by either pressing S, that's a global save for keyframe, or I press this yellow button. Now I got a keyframe. Now I can jump to the end of my frame by pressing Shift and right. So we're now already after the last frame. So I press left on the keyboard once in order to access the last frame. And now again, same trick. I bring this to the side, Shift, and move it in here. And now I hit S on my keyboard, and now I've saved my keyframe. Now we can dive out again. Let's click front to bring it up. And as you can see, got a good looking transition from left to right. The quality here isn't the best because Pixera always renders the files you're using into preview proxies in order to save some resources on your director and on your manager PC. You can find the preview settings here in settings and preview. This is where the proxies are going to be stored, and they are, as you can see, in low resolution. I could also change here from low to placeholder, thumbnail, or original if I want to work with better resolution preview. But for us, for now, this should work, so we keep that. Now let's add some logos. Pictures, there we go, logos. And let's add the AV Stumful logo right here on top. So this logo I would now like to resize, and then I want it to be moved from the left border outside of the screen into the screen and then move out again. Now, in order to do so, we will utilize so-called in-screen editing. Let's again dive in so we can work also beyond our screen. And now what I can do is I can take this now, move it, and resize it and reposition it. So what I will do now is I will resize it, something like this, and I will bring it here to the outside. And what's important always is our general rule for keyframes. For keyframes, you always need two values. You need the position, rotation, size, whatever you want to change. And you also want time. That's also always the two values you want to save. So always take care where your locator is whilst you save the keyframe. So I'll bring it up here, again into the beginning, and click here and save. And as you can see, my keyframe is now stored. So the logo is now located here on the side. Now I want the logo to fade in starting at 2 seconds. What I could do now is go into my time here. I can click in here and put in 200. You should remember 200 equals 2 seconds, 0 frames, which will bring the locator up here. Now in here, I can store some keyframes, or I can just copy and paste the keyframes, Control C, Control V, in order to get the same keyframe here, because if I would have already put my logo somewhere in the side here, the transition, of course, would have already started. So again, I want my transition to be, let's say, 3 seconds or 2 seconds, again, long. With Alt and left and right, I can jump between keyframes. So again, jump in here, press Enter on the keyboard, which will immediately select my time here on the top. And now I can go plus 200 in order to add 2 seconds, 0 frames, to jump again in here. And now I can position my logo. So what I will do now is I will press Shift, again the same Shift we have been using on module in the beginning of this module in order to bring it in. And now I can save my keyframe. So I hit save and we are good to go. Let's take a look. There we go. Now I want to keep my logo here for 5 seconds, let's say, and then move it out again. That's again with Alt and left click, jump to the keyframe, Enter, plus 500 to go to advance 5 seconds on the timeline. And in here, I again want to store my keyframe. So I go Control C, Control V in order to copy paste it in here. And again, 2 seconds in order to fade out or to bring the logo out. Plus 200 to again advance 2 seconds. And again, Shift in order to bring it out. And save by clicking here. There we go. I could have, of course, also copied the value from here. Now there we go. 2 seconds. We start to get in. Logo stays for 5 seconds. After 5 seconds, logo leaves the screen again. Now to a little bit more of an advanced animation. Let's start and add a 16:9 picture right here. And let's make a duration of, let's make 20 seconds. So 200 is 2 seconds, 2000 would be 20 seconds. 20 seconds, 0 frames again. Now in this case, I want to rescale it to 50%. And that can be done quite easily by going in here and going, sorry, not divided by 5. Let's again go in here. I want to divide by 2. Let's go divide by 4. So 2 again. And divide by 4. There we go, to make it smaller. Now let's open this in here so we see the keyframes which are being stored. Save. Now I want to start from the right top border. So I bring it up. Let's dive in. And with Shift, I will now snap it right here into my edge and save the keyframe. Now, same game. I go and press Enter to select my time in here, plus 500 to add 5 seconds, to advance in here, and now I will place my picture. Shift. I should grab it here so it snaps. There we go. Save. Now, as you can see, we've only saved our X position. Why? It's a good question. Because only this value was changed. We also need a Y position in here though, because otherwise the picture would move diagonal. So what I will do in order to save it is just go here and with Shift, change the value a little bit, and here we go. Again, Enter plus 500 to advance. There we go. Now I will use my values in here in order to shift it down. That's also something you could do. So I bring it down. Let's zoom in. Shift. There we go. Save. And again, I need a changed value in here. Save. There we go. And the last one, again. Oh, sorry. So misclick. The last one. Snap with Alt and left to the keyframe. Enter plus 500. There we go. And let's do the same trick here on the X value. Bring it here to the sides. Shift. Save. Again, we need change value here. There we go. And up to the last frame. So Shift right and then once left to get to the last frame. And let's again use the snapping in here. So I grab my content here on the left top corner, Shift, there we go, and save, and I've got my circle animation. Now, if you're doing advanced keyframe animations like that and we want to copy and paste it on other files, again, you could theoretically copy and paste the keyframes. I think what's better still is to simply copy and paste the file and then replace it with a different file. I think that's the easiest way on doing something like this. And of course, it is also possible to add keyframes by hand and also modify them by hand. And what can help you here is to expand the layer height, for example. So what you could do is expand the height in here. Or you press Shift and bring this down, then it will expand the layers of all the corresponding layers. Another way is to just use the tool in here, which will, sorry, not this one, but this one. But this tool will do it globally on everything, basically. So additionally to regular keyframes, you can of course also add Bezier keyframes, for example. So what you could do in here is also add keyframes by double click and change the joint kind, which you can change either here or here. So I could, for example, do a Bezier corner, which will then do something like this, for example. And another one. To create a curve, as you can see. Now, the last topic I would like to discuss in module 3 are effects. And effects in Pixera are always layer-based. That's quite a big difference to some other media server software. And the main reason for that is that it's a lot easier to control it from a fixture from a lightning desk. So where do you find the effects and how do you apply them? In the resources, you can find effects. And in here, you can find all the effects you can use in Pixera. Now, let's take, for example, the cropping effect. All you want to do is drag and drop it onto a layer. And now when you expand the layer, where you also would also find your keyframes, you will be able to find the effect. And most effects do have a mix value, which you need to apply in order to apply the effect per media item. Let's, for example, let's take a look at it, for example. Let's put the mix up to 1. And let's crop it a little bit. Let's do also a little bit on the top. And also on the right with some softness on the right. For example, there we go. Now, if I was to add another piece of media, as you can see, I would have to add the mix again and also all the other values in order to apply the effect again. And of course, you can also stack effects. Let's add this color stripes effect, for example. And you could basically add as many as you want. Of course, at some point, it will be too much for the graphics card to handle. So always take care to take a look, a close look at the performance.